I'm the project manager for Local Food and Farm Co-op. Welcome to the first of 3 installments in our Cooperative COVID Resilience webinar series. As co-ops have the particular and unique ability to be and responsibility to be flexible and adhere to the needs of their membership, this webinar series explores the concepts relevant to food and farm co-ops and social enterprises in this new context of COVID-19. Today's topic is innovative adaptations, and our speakers are from across the province. They're going to share their creative strategies for managing to adapt and to serve their members and their communities. We hope that their stories will validate some of your successes and challenges and also inspire more collaboration and innovation as we navigate the pandemic. For any folks new to LFFC, here's just a quick overview of our projects and services. We're a member-driven network. Our team and our board work to fulfill LFC's mission, which is fostering vibrant, resilient, connected, and sustainable food systems and farm cooperatives across Ontario. Specifically, we support development of food and farming initiatives through our work with startups and emerging co-ops. We provide tools and resources that these co-ops need to develop and achieve their local food goals. Some of the ongoing projects include co-op field schools, which in fact, this webinar series is a part of. These are educational events. Trade routes, which currently our main project is the Northern Food Distribution Network, where we're strengthening food self-determination through better distribution in the north. We also provide one-on-one support services to members, such as marketing, bookkeeping, and consulting for co-op development. If you are interested to know more, you can visit our website or you can ask us via email to learn more about our membership services and fees. Now let's move on to our speakers. We have today, we're joined by 3 of our member co-ops. They're leading the local food and farm sector. We're going to learn about how they're continuing their operations and to be responsive to their members while following the sometimes changing public health guidelines. They'll discuss how they have determined which parts of their operations to prioritize. What are their biggest challenges? They'll reflect on how they would do things differently if they could and give any advice that they might have for others that are struggling through this. First up, we have Kelli Ebbs from Muskoka North Good Food Co-op in Huntsville. Then we'll hear from Stacey Allen-Cillis of the Mustard Seed Co-op in Hamilton. And finally, we'll have Erin Lawrence from On the Move Organics, a workers co-op in London, Ontario. Thank you so much to our speakers for joining us to share how they're adapting to the pandemic. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kelli from Muskoka North Good Food. Kelli, please take it away.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. It's a real honor to have been asked to present today. It's just before the webinar started, we were all just quickly speaking about how it has been very difficult to pull ourselves away from our busy stores right now. And so my apologies, my presentation it's going to be a little bit off the cuff, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to really prepare. However, I can speak about this till forever because I've been living it for months now, and it's been, I'd say daily, a huge shift. We don't know what's coming at us from week to week, and when we are, welcoming our customers at the curbside or in the store, depending on the timing here, we are also really having to respond to many hundreds of people's needs and reactions to what decisions we've been making on the fly. So it's been a really interesting past 4 or 5 months. I think that over the last 2 weeks, we've actually started allowing and letting people back into our food co-op, which has been really wonderful. It's been wonderful to see the faces again, even though we're all covered in masks. But it's also been, we've realized how much we've really missed our members. Doing the curbside pickup for the past 3 months prior was really distant and disjointed and felt very strange talking through windows and things like that. And so it's really nice to feel a little bit more real again. However, I think we've got a long road ahead of us to actually getting back to where we were before this all started. I think that our food co-op has really adapted to this, to what's been thrown at us really well. I have to say that if it wasn't for the amazing staff that work with me in that food co-op, we wouldn't even be open today. We have been working a lot of hours, and we've been doing a lot of extra time to make sure that we're delivering our mission, which is to create easier access to all of this good food. And then in turn, while keeping everybody safe from any potential illness that might arise. So my biggest and top priority from the very beginning has actually been the health and happiness of my staff foremost, because without them, like I said, we wouldn't be here. So we actually closed our doors to the public quite quickly, because we're a small store, and we don't have a lot of space to kind of to give each other space. So right away we decided, before most people were shutting their doors, or being mandated to shut their doors, we decided to do that, and we started immediately overnight a curbside pickup system. We do not have online ordering, so it was really interesting trying to have people order their groceries by email or over the phone, and not really knowing what we, carry in the store. So I was throwing together weekly newsletters that were listing every single product in the store without any pricing, because pricing, as we all know, fluctuates from week to week depending on what the product is. So we were just assuring our customers that as a not-for-profit, we're pricing our goods as fairly as we possibly can always. And so that's just kind of how they're going to have to go with the kind of the unknown pricing strategies that we had. And then when people called to place their order, if they wanted prices, that's when we could give them every price for every product without too much problem. And in doing that, we ended up having to cut and actually close down the whole cafe aspect of our co-op, which is a huge component and a huge draw to our store. It makes up about 10% of the total sales margins in our store, but only makes up about a fifth of the sales. So by having that cafe open, it really does actually allow us to find profit in our sales. Whereas with the groceries, it's, as we all know, it's very difficult to kind of get ahead in that level. So when we decided to stop doing prepared foods like that, we knew it was going to be a big risk, because we were going to be losing a lot of our profit margin. However, one big bonus in all of this is that our grocery sales just about tripled over that time. So our higher grocery sales resulted in our actual budgets being fairly streamlined through the whole thing. We didn't take a serious nosedive on any level, except that we were personal shoppers for hundreds of people every day. And that was really difficult, because it took time to take the order, takes time to shop for the order, then you've got to call them and ask them about substitutions and replacements, get their payment information, and suddenly you've just spent an hour on one order. And we had, through a good portion of this, we were never ever short of having about 20 or 30 orders in a pile, and it just never got smaller all day long, right? Because the orders just kept coming in. And so it was really great that we were able to kind of maintain good sales during the time. However, some of the challenges, as I'm sure every food industry person could say, is that we had real supply chain issues. There was big shortages in a lot of main staple items for a long time. It's getting a lot better now. So we were really happy when we could procure all of this amazing fresh milled flour and different things that we weren't able to get conventionally in the mainstream markets. So at times we were the only store in all of Huntsville with flour and yeast, or oats, or whatever those things were that were at the time showing major shortages. So our local producers were really helping fill those gaps in a big way, and we were able to absolutely drive people who have never been to our co-op here because of that. Our membership spiked during the last 3 months. We've gotten a considerable amount of buy-in from people who are recognizing that we can't wait till it's too late to support this type of system. And so our membership spiked. Our food economy is growing noticeably because of it. And what people are really telling us is that they need to know that the food they're eating is safe, and that they need to know that that food hasn't been passed through many hands. We were fairly plastic free before this, but now we're bagging everything again. And, there's certain elements that kind of go against our values. However, our values are what's really kept us going. And sticking to it has been great. I do have some photos. I don't know, Shyla, if you can bring them up at all, but we have been continually messaging on our Facebook page and through our newsletters a really positive message about what's been going on, because in all of this has been very difficult for people, but it's also been absolutely amazing and necessary in my eyes that this has kind of happened, and has shown us where we need to focus our energy more. So this is a letter here that just we were doing grocery drop off for people who were absolutely unable to even drive their car here. So we did do some delivery, and this was just on one of the doorsteps when we delivered one day. And often people were leaving us, envelopes with a $50 bill in it, just saying, buy your staff lunch today, and just really appreciative people, and considerate and caring. I would say 99% of the people that we work with have been so wonderful. Here's a little example here of, what that return to normal, what it looks like, and how we can reinvent that. And I've been really messaging that. I have been posting, recipes on how to make a sourdough starter, and now all of a sudden people are coming in and saying they're making sourdough bread every day now. And there's a lot of people who are kind of turning their vision to more a self-reliant one. And so we're sharing lots of information around what that means, what's resilience, and how can we start seeds and plant gardens, and it's incredible. So this is us, 3 of our staff anyways. This was our very first sign that we ever made, and this was before it really even started. We were just starting to feel it. And we tried to keep a lot of normalcy going on. So when we have a beautiful espresso bar in our co-op. So when people ordered their food, we always asked if we could bring them out a cappuccino or a latte with their groceries, just to keep things a little more normal for them, So it was so nice. I always felt that we have a gravel driveway, but I was always feeling like I should be on roller skates out there, because we were just, delivering groceries and coffee and food out to all these cars all day long. And so it just really helped people to feel a sense of love still in amidst the craziness. Always showing images of reflecting how we're asking people to be in our store. So of course now we've actually been totally masks on the whole time. But one thing I am finding is that there are lots of people who can't wear masks for various reasons. And these are our member owners who are having a hard time accessing food because of it. So we're going to start an after hours privately open to the membership members who cannot wear masks. And we're just going to limit it to 2 people in the store at a time to come in for half an hour, a few times a week, to do their shopping without having those restrictions placed upon them. Yeah, I'm sure my time is up now, but happy to answer any questions. And I guess for me, it's just, we're taking it day by day. This is one of our producers who came in with her mom. She's a granola maker. She had her mask on. I just thought, let's put some of this out there and show people. You see, we have a beautiful vegetable garden outside the front of our food co-op. And the other thing that I have really noticed and will really start to be changing our mindset on in the store is how many people are planting food right now and growing food. And so we are going to be really aiming towards lots of workshops, and lots more seeds and plant starts next year, and just really try and help people become more dependent on themselves rather than the world at this point. And just telling and sharing with people about, you know, how to mindfully shop, you know, shop for more, less often, wash your hands, you know, shop for your neighbors and the elders around you, that type of idea, just to, you know, keep people safe but cared for.
Thank you so much, Kelli, for sharing how it's going at Muskoka Good Food North. Just to keep on time, I'm going to roll right into Stacey. Stacey, would you like to share your screen or begin speaking?
Yep, for sure.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Kelli, thank you so much for that great first introduction to this series. And I can certainly shake my head and smile and agree and say yes to many of those things that you spoke to as well. You know, looking out for membership and looking out for staff has been the priority. And since everything has happened and it happened so quickly, I was attempting to take vacation, but I came off vacation back into the store on the week of the pandemic, which is now the National Day of Pandemic, which is my actual birthday. We switched it right away. So the 13th of March, when I came back, we formed a working group with 2 members of our volunteer board of directors and some of our leadership team, myself being the operations manager of the store, and 2 other staff members, so that we could start rolling through the motions and making decisions on a quick basis. And I'm just going to share my screen now so I can sort of walk through what I've put together. Again, very quickly, not a pro at this whatsoever. Not my forte. Social media is my other thing that I do for the store. So I've taken a lot of imagery from social media. So you may have seen it, or you may recognize that's what it's from. So let me do that now. And here we are. So can we see? Yeah? All right. So in saying that, what we did, we pulled together a little team that took phone-in calls twice a week to do a check-in, and we started making decisions about how many people can we have in the store at one time. We never closed, to preface that. We remained open, fully functioning, and then we had to integrate different systems such as a pickup and delivery system for those that were unable to come in or self-isolating, all of those reasons. So we quickly made some decisions around changing how we even use the actual store itself by means of closing our main doors and only making it an exit. And we had a cafe door over to the right side of the building, which we ended up changing into our entrance so that we could greet people coming in and we could direct them out of the store. So we had a bit of a flow. We're about 2,300 square feet. That may sound large, but in actuality, it's quite tight with a few aisles, quite tight to the cash out stations. So we did our best to sort of make sure we greet people, make sure we could direct them around and throughout the store. And we started posting signs around the store and doing things such as this. We had my partner came in and handmade this plexiglass screen for one of our cash out stations with what he could stand in line for an hour to find at an exorbitant price to put together. Plexiglass became a hot commodity, as you may all know. So it required a little bit of ingenuity with what we had in place. And what we ended up doing is taking one of our checkouts and using that as our order processing station. So you could no longer cash out at that station, but we would have, you can see Dee, she's waving there in the picture. She's been our go-to staff member as far as calling up people to process their orders. And as Kelli mentioned, we too saw a huge uptake in that area. So we were processing probably at 30 a day-ish. And we kept it to a Tuesday to Thursday window, with then procuring volunteers and getting the volunteer program so that we could get drivers to take them out of the store for members. So remember, again, we only opened up pickup and delivery to our membership as a part of being a member and servicing that clientele. What we did also find, because we were doing that, is a lot of people decided, I'm going to become a member so that I could have this service. And yes, please, we would love that. So we too found that we were getting a lot of great feedback around the service we were providing, with Dee calling it in, speaking to you, making sure your substitutions were looked after, or making sure we explained anything that was going to happen. We ended up cleaning up, this is to the other side of our building, where we ended up cleaning up what would be typically our loading dock area. We had to quickly adjust and change and make sure we had a place for someone to come and pick up their food, because we couldn't physically put it in their vehicles. So we did a quick cleanup, and then I would post on social, how-tos and where things are. And we ended up getting a cell phone strictly for the store for pickups, because we were getting the phone wouldn't stop. It'd just be off the hook all day. So we got the cell phone in place, so that people could text us when they arrived with their name, and then we would bring everything out for them. And we also, we have an advertising agency that's just on the big strip of street that we are positioned on. And we requested of them some help with a PDF fillable online purchasing formatted, ready to go pickup order form. And that took a little bit of back and forth for a very reasonable amount of money on what we could put together. And we started using that. So we would send that out to the member. They'd fill it out, send it back to us. They'd keep it. They'd send it to us every week at a certain time. And that seemed to work really, really well for us. It was a quick solution for the time. And we also made sure that we were sending out, as you can see on the right-hand side here, we were sending out weekly updates to any of our subscribers, the members that we were subscribed to within MailChimp. And we use that as a place of, here's your updates, here's what's new, here's the hours, anything that we could possibly spread further than what social media was able to do for us. And we did find that ended up being about upwards of a 50% open rate, which, if any of you are familiar with newsletters and what open rates look like, that's pretty good in our experience anyways. So that was very helpful as well. Something else, as far as like adapting and reimagining, revolves around, we have an annual seedling sale at the Mustard Seed, and that's been going on for 6 years. And every Mother's Day weekend, it's been an extraordinary event. It's well looked forward to. People are so excited about this. We have a lot of farmers and producers that come with their seedlings and just completely line our parking lot for 2 days. And as you can imagine, that wasn't going to be something we could do this year. So we adapted quickly. Again, COVID-19 working group, myself and the leadership within the store were, what can we do now? What's next? How do we fix this? And we were able to come up with a system where we listed all of the farmers that were willing to participate. You could go to our website, you could select a farmer, you could see what their offerings were, what seedlings they were going to offer for the season. You could make arrangements and pay for your seedlings, and then we would have the farmer come, one farmer for a scheduled amount of time, come park in our lot. We had a table system set up, so there was social distancing made available, and then there were time slots. So the customer member would then pick a time slot, and that's when they could come and also pick up their groceries if need be, and pick up their seedlings. And the farmers sold out. This was one of their record years for seedling sales as far as that was concerned. So in our eyes, that was also a win solution to what we were facing. We sold out of seeds multiple times in the store as well. So we were highly encouraged to also see that people are really taking control of their food supply and making sure that they were exercising, growing things at home as well, because we too were experiencing those difficulties in supply chain. What else do I have for you here? For example, things that we used, there's a notice here on the left that we would list, how many items you could purchase at one time. And that was because we were having those difficulties with supply chains. I sure hope that everyone has mastered the art of bread making over this particular experience because flour was something we absolutely couldn't keep on the shelves. Yeast, as Kelli mentioned as well, bread and yeast were just the go-to items. And we were able to slowly but surely work with our suppliers that we had. We have a couple local mills, and you know, we had to kind of be, again, adaptive and find different solutions. And we had to package up yeast to be able to sell that by weight at a certain period of time as well. One of our particular departments is our bulk department. We've really grown it. It's something that people come to the mustard seed for, whereas we reduce waste, bring your own jars. It's a really important piece to our business, and unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to retract a lot of that, and you know, hope for its slow return as we're just starting to do now. But that was that would be one of the downsides to this as far as sales are concerned. But again, we adapted. People were more happy to spend that little bit extra to get the flour they wanted, or just by ordering by pickup, they were able to just say, I need this, I need this, I need this. And then we told them the cost of what that would be like, and no one had, you know, any issues. And that, by no means did we take advantage of any pricing. We did it as it was according to our margins, according to what the suppliers were giving us as a cost. So there's a little example too here of just our cell phone on social media, using that to remind people, you know, call us, text us, we'll bring it out to you. This another one here is chalkboard sign before you enter, just a reminder, this is how many people we have in store. And you know, it really did go over fairly well with customers coming in and being patient. We've had, of course, our instances. During this time, we've also faced a couple of pretty huge setbacks, including our walk-in fridge breaking down. We're without one, and we have been since the end of June. So having to work around different circumstances. Here's a nice picture. I made them take our masks off, but you can see, so they would smile. Some of our team here, all 6 feet apart down the row here. Without them, again, we've got the best team in my opinion. They've really been supportive and strong and patient and willing to adapt. And a lot of us spent a lot of volunteer time. You know, we did choose to close Sundays during a period of this pandemic to give everyone a bit of relief because it was becoming, you know, all consuming, in that our hours and our mind and our strength was needing to be rested. So best team ever. Our customers and members have been honestly fantastic. It's been a huge learning curve, of course, and we're still adapting. Hamilton bylaw, we're waiting, but Monday, supposedly our bylaw is passing for mandatory masks inside all businesses. So we do await that news. Masks for our staff. We had a couple of members sew masks and volunteer, actually just donate them to us. So all of the staff were able to have a supply. That was another supply chain issue with procuring them for purchase. Gloves, masks, sanitizer. We did a couple of call outs for wipes and hand sanitizer to be used in store. We did take away all of the cafe seating inside. We did reduce the hours to our cafe itself. We adjusted in every department basically where we could, that made sense for us in the time. And that was done with, again, collectively, myself, 2 other leadership in the store, and we had the 2 board members that were, you know, also a sounding board, and were able to also help coach us through some things as well. And yeah, that's in a nutshell, I guess. That's sort of what that looks like for us. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for so many, well, insightful and interesting solutions to those challenges. We've seen some questions come up, so I'm looking forward to hearing your answers to those. Next up, we have Erin Lawrence of the On the Move Organics. in London. Aaron, would you like to take it away? Share your screen and whatnot? Please, the stage is yours.
It's been a bit of a ride. It's certainly not through it by any stretch. It's hard to talk about on the move organics by itself, and I will do that. But it's actually it's part of a local food oriented worker cooperative business group. You can see on the side of the truck there's on the move organics. We've got the Root Cellar Organic Cafe, Lola Bees, which is a nonprofit beekeeping, bee education program, and then the London Brewing Cooperative, which is a worker-owned cooperative craft brewery. So there's really three business elements working together that each had a very different pandemic story, and they're thoughtfully integrated in that we always thought it'd be a three-legged stool, and that as long as you get support from each group depending on the circumstances. So setting the stage of entering into the pandemic, on the Move Organics is the oldest business in the group. It's been in operation for 12 years. It's primarily a local food procurement and distribution company. So it does the circuit out to local farms, brings that product back into our warehouse, and sorts it, packs it, delivers it to people's homes, delivered a substantial amount of product to the Root Cellar restaurant and a smaller amount to London Brewing. It financially, as a business, was also the weakest link in the group. It's very difficult to. We all know grocery is tough. The margins in grocery and produce are not great. You add on the additional costs of delivering and trying to maintain pricing while you're competing with other delivery companies and Loblaws and Sobeys who have lots of money to lose in their programs, and it's definitely been a challenge. So as a business group, the Root Cellar was definitely the strongest element of it, leading into the pandemic, and the brewery has gone through an expansion phase and was doing quite well. 2020 was going to be the brewery's year, but a lot of its focus was in-house. We have a tap room, 50-seat patio, 100 seats inside, live music, all of that, and we can see where that's heading come the pandemic. So Root Cellar closes. So revenue goes to $0 on the brewery side. Tap room closes. All of the bars and restaurants that we supplied also close down. So there goes 50% of our, greater than 50% of our sales, 50% of the volume of beer that we produce, easily 90% of the margin. And then overnight, on the Move Organics, demand quadruples. So it became a, how do we shift resources around as a group as sort of quickly as possible to do what we need to do as a worker-owned cooperative, the primary goal, in addition to our local food goal, our primary goal is decent work for ourselves. And we've just closed down half of one business and fully another business, while another one is going up. So ended up sort of reshuffling of staff. A lot of the serving staff at the Root Cellar came down to work on the move. There's us out on delivery. That's Steve marketing, who ended up doing deliveries as well. There is our warehouse with, you can sort of see the delineation of space between the brewery and those are all the packing bins for on the move. Those were exceedingly fun to go around and find at all the Canadian Tires in the middle of the pandemic. Said tongue in cheek. So move staff from the Root Cellar down on the move to our packing line. I think I've got an image of it there. That's going through sort of a dry goods section. The kitchen staff at the root cellar switched gears from producing food to go to producing the packaged dry goods, as well as some prepared foods that then would go out in the delivery program. And we spent a lot of time sort of fixing problems, because we had a program that was set up for online ordering, but generally you anticipate kind of slow, steady growth, hopefully, not spontaneous overnight growth. So all of the little problems that we knew existed, but I mean, when you're running a series of small businesses, the biggest problem is the one that's on fire right now, not the one that you know is going to be on fire later. And suddenly there were a lot of fires to put out. Not having enough vehicles, an aging website that was built on an open source platform back in the day that had kind of been patched and bandaged and was working, but had a few quirks, and then those quirks get multiplied fourfold with 4 times the use on the site. And then really trying to work through sort of how do we keep our staff safe? How do we keep the customers that we're serving safe? A lot of them in older age demographics, folks reaching out to us in sort of immunocompromised situations, needing to know that the food that was coming to the door was as safe as possible. So stepping up the sanitizing programs, all the PPE for the staff, changing the orientation of the packing line so that we spread out, get as much distance between staff as possible, nodding heads a lot with the supply issues. It was overnight what was sort of a trickle of interest in local food suddenly became a fire hose, and we don't have a local food system. We know it's very broken, and suddenly that surge of demand was things were starting to break down. Supplies of local flour, not able to get enough bags to actually bag the flour, enough grain on site here at Arva to be able to mill it, but no bags for it to go into. Like all of the problems associated with the sudden surge of demand were very real. Eggs could not be found. But it was okay. We figured it out. Staff stepped up. New positions were created. This delineation of roles happened in a way that they hadn't. We made the decision to close down. We also had a stall and a juice bar at the local farmers market. We closed that down so that at least in a delivery environment, we knew that we weren't exposing staff to at work, except between each other, but keeping them at a distance and masked, keeping ourselves at a distance and masked. It wasn't going to be the work environment that compromised their health, and that was really important. And we also knowing that it wasn't going to be then ourselves contaminating product that we were then delivering to the older folks that was going to be a source of concern. None of it could have happened without some of the government support that existed. The CEBA loan, then when they finally got the rent relief rolled out, because we're still supporting a restaurant with very little revenue and still keeping staff employed. So there's that. And then you have the sort of the long-term concerns related to, I'm sure we all do, related to this sudden interest in local food. Is it going to be sustained? So we've dramatically changed our program, made new investments, new vehicles, working on a new website, because Lord knows this other one is ready for deserves a museum. but what's going to happen is we return to normal. So, and what does normal look like? What's going to happen in a home delivery sphere where somebody like Good Food just opened up a 250,000 square foot fulfillment center out of Mississauga. Sobeys we know there's a substantial amount of investment going into the delivery sphere from sort of roboticized AI-driven fulfillment centers. And how do we keep telling the story of sort of local was here to get you through the pandemic. We were one of the few places in the city that was still accepting new customers. We need to continue supporting it and developing it further, because there's a sense of community. We actually care about our customers. It's not solely the bottom line that drives it. Otherwise, we would have stopped a long time ago. Long term, what happens in California as we see case counts there surge, and what happens to sort of access to product outside of the local growing season. These are all, I guess, concerns as we're coming through it, and how do we adapt through that process? But we're still smiling, even behind the masks. We have fantastic staff. A lot of them been with us for a long time, learning new skills, adapting to new situations with sort of grace and smiles, which is really, really appreciated. Resilience is a good phrase for it. This is sort of building for the future. Just went up last week, I guess it was. Folks from the Elmer Mennonite community came in and built a hoop house that's going in a park space directly across from the warehouse. So we'll build a little bit of resilience into the local food system by growing some things ourselves, very close by, right next to the Lullabies apiary. So I guess we continue making baby steps and solving problems as best we can, as collaboratively as we can, and as kindly as we can.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Aaron. Now it's question and answer time. And we've had a few questions already come in through the chat. So to Stacey, can you clarify, were staff packing up bulk items, or were they offering alternate packaged items?
Thank you for the question. Yes, so what we had on shelves, what we started to do is package them ourselves. We tried very hard to find packaging that could be reused when we ran out of our in-house mason jars, and compostable packaging is difficult to procure, expensive. So we did our best to get some. We ended up having to do a surcharge on packages that we did end up putting bulk into for that reason. But that was what we offered first. If the customer member who was doing pre-orders would prefer a brand specific, then that was also given as an option. But yeah, we did our best to get everything packaged up that we could, and we still are doing that. And we've just slowly brought back some of the options. And we're now in the phases of consideration for people being able to be bringing in their clean, reusable vessels as well.
Wow, yeah, thank you, wonderful, that's interesting. Another question that just came in from Jen was I think to anyone that wants to take it, do you foresee any of the COVID-inspired adaptations becoming permanent installations, or actually found to be an improvement? You know how sometimes adversity spurs innovation. Would Kelli, Stacey, or Erin like to speak to that?
I don't mind speaking to that a little bit.
Great, and then we'll have Stacey go after.
Cool. Okay. So actually, the whole bulk food thing was really interesting for us because we ended up having to shut our cafe down. We have a big area in the co-op that's a large harvest table and, a seating area, which we literally just took over and created a bulk food section in because of the high demand for all of these more staple products. Like really people were building their pantries. I could just see it happening, right? So people were loading up with all the dry pulses and grains and things like that. So we just used brown, U-line bags, and we bagged everybody's bulk food up for them. And to this day, our whole cafe area is just this massive bulk food area where we are now recognizing that we need to keep that. And we need to grow it and find better solutions, probably getting a true bulk food area at some point when we can get some money together for it. And really start supplying that type of stuff on a more, on a larger scale, I guess. So it's been great. Like we've learned that that's a big demand, and we love it. People don't want plastic packaging. They just want to have things given to them in brown paper bags, and it's more affordable, obviously. So that's been one really neat turn for us.
That's great. And Stacey, you said you had a response too.
I think our pre-order pickup, specifically for members, we've really rocked that, in my opinion. Out of everything else, we've been able to come up with a great, solution-based, forward-thinking, timely, efficient way of doing it. And I think that the members have responded incredibly well to it. So I don't foresee that going away necessarily entirely. Our delivery piece did come right back down to next to 1 or 2 in a week. People are more inclined to want to leave, at least get out in the fresh air, at least, make their way down to the co-op if they can to pick up food. So I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. And Kelli, give me a ring when you're ready to set up some bulk stuff, because we can definitely talk a lot about that, and containers. So give me a holler.
Another question that just came in, one of the viewers, is have any of your co-ops experienced layoffs or reduced hours and wages due to the pandemic, and how are you actually managing that? I know it's been referenced a little, but how are you adapting to that issue?
I'll speak to that. So one really beautiful outcome of this is that our staffing has increased. We, literally at the beginning, I had a member come in, and it took me 20 minutes to ring her through because the phone wouldn't stop ringing. And she just saw the chaos kind of happening. And she said, "Do you need help?" and she came in and volunteered for 2 days, and then I hired her. So it was just awesome to kind of, to see us building our staff team based on the high demand for being personal shoppers and, purchasing and all of that stuff. And we did increase the wages of all of our staff. We were already paying above fair living wage, and we increased it even more. And I'm going to do everything in my power to not decrease it at all, ever. So we're hoping to keep those better wages going, just after seeing what these people have been through over the last 3 or 4 months. They deserve every bit of it and probably more. So we are hoping to just keep on that trajectory of, keeping a good, solid, big staff team.
So in fact, you did not have reduced hours. You actually increased both in staff and in wages. That's an excellent turn of events, in fact.
And, you know, I think after, you know, it was kind of made public that the conventional grocery stores dropped the wages of their staff back to, you know, the minimum wage model. That even made more people want to shop at the co-op. So people were coming in just in such dismay that that is how people are treating their employees at a time like this, that they're choosing one over the other now. So it's really interesting.
Did Aaron or Stacey want to speak to staffing or
it's a bit of a mixed bag. Overall, staffing stayed relatively stable. There were some folks who elected not to return. Initially, not everybody was laid off. At the root cellar, everybody was laid off, and at the brewery, most folks were laid off because what it looked like was those businesses were just done as of the shutdown, without any further information coming out, which was that was a heart-wrenching, gut dropping moment. And then all of a sudden On the Move picked up. So anybody who had been laid off at the root cellar had the option to come back to work at On the Move. Inside the brewery, the delivery program, we had a website going up and home delivery of beer, and that took off, and those who wanted to were able to come back to work. So on the whole, everybody who wanted to work, who didn't have kids at home, who suddenly weren't in school and now at day camp, and had to be home to take care of them, who weren't able to come back to work because of that situation. But everybody who wanted to work was able to come back. So that's something we're very fortunate that the support was there from the community for the programs that we're able to operate, and that we were able to keep the jobs through the process, and hopefully we can just carry that through.
Thank you for sharing the experience in London. There may be a few other questions from some of our listeners that are non-video participants. If I just want to open up the floor to guests, well, not the speakers, but the other guests, to actually feel free to say out loud any questions you might have right now.
I have a question, if that's okay. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Susanna Radicop. I'm the communications coordinator for LFFC. Currently on vacation, but I also helped to organize this session. So I'm really amazed and impressed at how well this has gone. Thank you so much for joining and for speaking to all of those things, guys. I have a question. I was actually wondering to all of you if there's something that you wanted to mention about if there's a piece of advice that you would wish you had known going into this time of COVID, or perhaps if there's some advice that you could give someone in a similar situation as to yours. Yeah, Stacey, I feel like you have something to say.
That's huge. That's a loaded question, Susanna. So one thing I'd like to offer, something that I've been practicing, well, more and more, is don't react immediately. Take a moment, step aside, even if you have to sleep on it. Think it through. You're going to get a lot of opinions. You're going to get a lot of perspectives. You're going to get a lot of, wants, don'ts, do's. You need to take it all in before you can make any drastic, decision making, especially when it comes to procedure and policy. And when it comes to the health of you and safety of your staff, you want to make sure you're giving them a voice and you're listening. And although that's not always easy in a very busy and very, staff limited sort of structure, I found it very, very valuable to make sure I connected with the staff and got to check in with them. And again, take considerations with you back home for the night, although it doesn't help you to sleep. it certainly helps you to come up with maybe, you know, some forward thinking, some solution-based exchanges and problem solving. So that would be one piece of advice that I give myself again.
Thanks, Stacey. I'd echo that for sure. There's been, especially in the initial stages, you had to make decisions really, really quickly. And as that became the normal, we got in the habit of putting the brakes on decisions and, okay, let's make this decision tomorrow after we've slept on it. Just pausing for a moment. It's easy to get caught up in the inertia and just sort of living in a high stress. What is the next day going to be after having lived in sort of a fairly routine? How are we going to operate? The other piece, and I still don't know if I'm following it, but that little problems that you know exist are going to be eventually become big problems. That the best time to address them is now, if you can. Just issues that we knew we had became amplified sort of exponentially, for a pandemic term, under the new conditions, where if we addressed them earlier, it would have been easier.
We're operating in a time of it's indeterminate, indefinite indeterminism. Another question is about software. Is there any software that any of you have used during this time that would help keep you organized about and help you to actually get some of your projects online, or your products, excuse me, online? Stacey, please.
Not necessarily software. We were in touch and using Local Line for a period of time, and our inventory system didn't integrate necessarily with Local Line, so it would be a constant updating takeaway, which kind of makes a little bit, well, more work, let's say. So what I took to, again, Kelly, I keep referencing you, but because you went first, you brought up some points. So, you know, being on the phone and trying to list the newsletter, when you said you listed everything in a newsletter that you had in the store, I have like 2,000 products. I can't even imagine. So what I was doing and still do every day, it's now a habit for me, again, being the social media manager, is that I literally take my phone. It's with me as I walk to and fro and back and up and down. And I take pictures of product in the store. I tag the brand, tag where it comes from, you know, give it a funny sticker. And people have commented, they've come in because they saw it on a story. It's something they hadn't seen. They weren't sure if we had. They put it in their pre-order form because they saw it. And that seemed to work. When you integrate it with your Facebook account as well, you're hitting a couple of different markets in that regard. So not necessarily a software, but for me, what worked was using what was free and what was available, and to great success.
Yeah, we had a lot of people that shopped from photos too. So it was really great in our newsletter. We often had people just expanding their picture and, you know, kind of shopping off the shelf virtually like that. So it was helpful for sure. I was a little bit afraid of creating any sort of online ordering system because I actually really didn't think, I felt like it was going to cause us to explode and that we weren't going to be able to actually meet the demand. So I was really very conscious of not going there at this point. It was too difficult to get product, and so, you know, we were always waiting. You know, our bigger distributors, you know, usually a turnaround time is 2 or 3 days, and it was, you know, sometimes a week and a half, 2 weeks before we saw a truck come up. So it was too unknown and unpredictable.
Thanks for sharing that. There's one more question. It's a little more open-ended about incorporation. So less to do with adaptation, but you might want to speak to that. Specifically, Erin, how is she asks, how is on the move Organics Incorporated, or is the brewery, root cellar, and On the Move all technically one organization? And she also wondered about Kelli, your co-op, if you wanted to mention after too.
Diagram this out a number of times. I really should have done it this time as well. On the Move Organics is a incorporated corporation. The Root Cellar Organic Restaurant is an incorporated corporation. The ownership structure of that is a board of directors worker-owned cooperative. And then the London Brewing Cooperative sits off to the side as a separately incorporated worker-owned cooperative with very close ties, shared membership, but as an independent organization because co-ops are autonomous. So that's structure, sort of. There's no formal linkage between the businesses apart from shared membership, but there's an understanding of support and working with each other. Some more examples of that would be sort of procurement on the Move side for the rhubarb, for this year's rhubarb wheat ale, deliveries of London Brewing beer in the home deliveries to home delivery customers, that sort of thing.
Thanks. And Kelli, I think Olivia was also wondering about Muskoka North, if there was more than one aspect that you would speak to.
Yeah, so we've been incorporated as a non-share capital multi-stakeholder cooperative since oh my goodness, since when? 2013, I think, somewhere in there. We have, you know, this big kind of cafe, restaurant, catering aspect of the co-op, which we call the Uproot Cafe, which is actually totally under the same umbrella of the co-op grocery.
A little more straightforward there. You know, I still have so many questions, but I think we've taken a lot of your time, our gracious speakers. So I will give just space for one more question. If anybody in the audience would like to ask one more question, or if any of the speakers have a question perhaps for each other, you're welcome to ask it now before we wrap up.
I've got a question.
Okay, great.
Just for the other speakers, really, but like, what is going to happen? Where are we going? Is this, you know, like, what are your thoughts on how we're going to be like playing out in the next 6 months with this? Anybody? Hard to say.
I'm awaiting some more kind of bylaw and more news, let's say, from our city. More conversations around the table with staff. Different needs are coming up as far as who's available, who's very, very tired. What does that look like? Our model specifically, although I've had a core group of staff for a couple of years, there's always a turnaround in a retail environment. So bringing in new humans, and what does that look to train in this new light, and how we've changed our operations. I think there's no such thing as normal ever, regardless of what's happening in the world. So I think it's a constant adaptation. It's a constant reimagining. And I think that's something that we've become really, really good at. And I'm going the high road here. And I'm going to say that we're just going to keep evolving and be thankful for whom you are working with currently, that has given the support and the strength and the patience to allow you to do so. So I don't have any long-term visions, but I think that if we keep on the same path and be open to change, you can only, make the best of it. So good luck to everyone here. Good luck to everyone listening and watching. And I hope that this has been helpful in some way, and I'm open to receive any other questions afterwards as well from anyone.
Yeah, I don't know, Kelly. Little nervous, especially as we start opening up bars and restaurants before school. So you got one little guy, 1.5 years, is going to be going back to daycare in the middle of August. And then Jasper is going to be starting senior kindergarten in September, whatever that looks like. Don't know what direction you watch what's happening south of the border, and thankfully we've been responsible up here, but we're not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. I guess we just keep rolling with it. Gonna try and get some vacation in now, just to kind of recharge, because I think the fall has the potential to not be so pretty.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way somewhat, but we just gotta roll with it.
Not a lot of other options.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that local food and farm co-op can help you and others roll with it. I want to, of course, thank you to our speakers for sharing your experiences and your time with us today. Thanks to all of the people that tuned in and for your insightful questions and comments. It's really important that we all engage and learn from each other to build on and roll with all of these unforeseen punches. And speaking of, the next topic in our webinar series is about online platforms, which we sort of referenced a lot today, and how these solutions, how we can discuss the real world needs and rapidly shifting sorts of options for how food sales and general commerce are going to be done. That is going to be on Wednesday, August 5th at 12 p.m. You can find more information about that on our website or on Facebook, and you can buy your ticket on Eventbrite. It is free for members of LFFC, but it's $10 for non-members for the second web series episode. Once again, thank you so much to Aaron, Kelly, and Stacey for sharing and for continuing to do the work that you're doing. It's important. You're feeding people and helping get local food to the consumers. With that, I leave you all to enjoy the rest of the day, and best of luck. And stay healthy.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone. It's good to see familiar faces again.